If you own a commercial cleaning company, I'm sure you know about the massive opportunity that there is to grow your business to insane levels and completely change your life. It doesn't cost much to start or to get going or even to grow, but the downside that most owners are often absolutely crushed by is dealing with staff. And that whole problem in and of itself is what keeps a lot of owners out there cleaning. And if you're out there having to clean, having to constantly fill in, you can't take off with your family, you can't go on vacations, you got to leave dinner, you know, the problem's going, and you can't grow because you're so tired from cleaning, well, then this video is for you. What you're going to get are 6 important items that you can do to keep yourself out of the cleaning. Because let's be real, we didn't start a commercial cleaning business so that we'd have to be stuck working all the time. We started it so that we could have freedom. So that's what these 6 things are going to help you do. Now, if you don't know who I am, my name is Matt. I'm a 7-figure commercial cleaning CEO. I help commercial cleaning business owners transform their commercial cleaning companies into those freedom machines that produce cash flow and produce profits and continue to grow without owners having to clean all the time. And just to be clear, have done this myself, built mine up from 0 to 7 figures, and I never worked full time on it. So with that, let's jump right into these points that I have used to achieve just that within my own commercial cleaning business, and I hope it helps you. The first thing that we need to do is going to be all about how are we going to be able to minimize the impact of turnover in our business. Because again, we got to be real. We're in an industry where people come and people go, and not always for bad reasons, right? We have some employees who they move or their life change. They get a promotion at a day job, or their spouse does, or something happens, but we also know what it's like to get completely stood up and we don't have anyone else to fill in a gap. But the difference is in how fast we can fill those gaps. Because if we have to wait an entire week and go through a huge interview process in order to find somebody, then we're stuck cleaning and trying to fill that in. If we don't have anyone else who can do it, then it's really going to put a damper on our business, or we're going to burn out our team with all this overtime that they didn't sign up for. And I'll tell you right away, most owners do not do what I'm about to tell you because it doesn't seem comfortable. It seems somewhat counterintuitive. What we have to do is maintain a constant flow of interest from applicants in our business. It boils down to this. You must always be interviewing. If within your business you only hire whenever you have a need for somebody, then you are not heading off the problem. But if you do have a constant flow of applicants coming into your business through your hiring process or a hiring system like what we have, then you're able to immediately fill gaps with people that are actively interested right then and there. I remember one time very vividly at the beginning of my business where I had 2 employees. They essentially stood me up, didn't show up to the job. I had all these buildings to clean. I handled them that night, but because I had always kept interviewing, even when I didn't have space for everyone that I was interviewing, I had someone that I called that night actually, that I had set up to come in the following day. They were willing to come in that night, but I told them no need. I didn't want to start them out in a stressful scenario like that. I wanted them to start smooth. So I just stayed calm and cool and collected and invited them to start the next day. And that allowed me on that long night that I had to go through, that I was able to do it with confidence, with comfort, and I was able to plan for that new hire that I was bringing in. And that principle has proved true over and over and over again. We constantly keep our system producing applicants and interest because you never know when someone who you really count on is going to do something foolish, or something changes, or you don't know who in your team is just suddenly their quality is going to drop, or they're just going to not show up at all. Now you might say, Matt, I feel bad about not having all the spots available if I'm continually hiring. Well, here's what we got to acknowledge within this industry. We have 2 different realities we can live with. We can either live in the reality of hiring people ahead of time and telling them, can you hang in? I'm working on opening up that spot for you. It turns out we don't have it just this moment. Sometimes things open up pretty immediately, right? I'd rather live with that reality as opposed to the other one, which is suddenly there's an opening, right? Maybe several people leave your company for whatever reason it is, but now there's this massive gap and you got to fill it with employees or yourself, and then you're still trying to run your business, and now on top of that cleaning, you have to start hiring and vetting and training and doing all the things that you need to do, or your management is, and it causes burnout within your company, and that's what stalls growth. I would much rather have the situation of letting someone down and asking them to hang in with some patience if they're willing for a position, as opposed to suffering on growth growth and causing burnout and ultimately taking our company down. So I encourage you, always be hiring. The second rule is this: overhire. Now, what I don't mean is go start throwing money at labor that you don't need. So how can you overhire but still have the same profit without adding all these extra hours to your business? Good question. Glad you asked. It's something called capacity versus demand. So let's say that you have 100 hours of cleaning that needs to happen on a single night. Well, what we do is we overhire beyond 100 hours. So whenever we're working on hiring employees and bringing them on, we ask them, what's the minimum amount of hours that you need? What's the most amount of hours that you need? And we're going to aim to give them the hours closer to their minimum, right? So that's going to be what is required of them. And then their capacity is going to be the most hours they could do. So if we have someone that wants to work for us 30 hours a week, right? Well, we might ask them, what's the minimum amount that you need in order to take this job? And they would say 20 hours. What's the most that you could do in a week if we were in an absolute pinch? They might say 35 hours. So what we do is establish that padding as soon as we hire them. So we're going to give them 20, 25 hours, maybe 30, whenever they start out with us. But then what happens is if somebody calls out or there's extra work or there's a gap or something comes up, then that person has a whole 15-hour amount of padding in their week that we can throw at any problem that we have, and they're more than happy to take it. Where most owners go wrong is they don't consider setting that padding in place from the start with new employees. Now, I can already hear what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, some people are not going to take a job where they only get some minimum amount of hours they want full time, or they must have this fixed set of hours, nothing more, nothing less. Well, how you build padding in that scenario is you schedule them for production time, like cleaning, for a large portion of that, right? Let's take a 30-hour per week person, right? We'll just do that again. You give them 20 to 25 hours of cleaning, and then with the additional 10 to 5 hours a week that they have, you give them other value-added tasks in your business. So whether that's running some errands, doing some office work, taking care of supplies, doing some deep cleanings for a client, doing some inspections. There's things that you can take off your plate and give to other people in your company to help fill that gap. And then what happens is whenever something does change, right? Someone calls out or we're short-staffed for some reason, we can say, hey, you know what? Those inspections over there, those can wait till tomorrow. Can you step in and fill in on this cleaning over here instead? And then if you've kept on interviewing and you're always reviewing applications and bringing people in, then you can fill that gap quickly and return back to normal. Now, there are some specific caveats with that we cover down below in the Janitorial Millionaire Blueprint, because depending on where your company is at and what size it's at, you don't want to overly stack your capacity, right? Because then you can suffer from major turnover in your company by not having enough hours for people. And you also don't want to be too close to demand, right? Because then if something does happen, even though you have a little bit of extra capacity to handle it, it's still going to put you out there cleaning or put your management team out there cleaning. So there's certain ratios at certain levels of your company that you need to be tracking with that you can aim for with that. And again, those specifics are in the Janitorial Millionaire Blueprint down below. Now, this third one is one that a lot of commercial cleaning company owners just don't think of. What if you could tap into a pool of people who already know about your business, who already know how to clean, who already know what to do no matter where you put them? I mean, that'd be great, right? It'd be a great quick fix. And this is something that we have done over and over again. So what this is we actually track and keep relationships with all of our past employees who left under good standing. And what we do whenever something opens up or whenever we need to fill a role quickly, we will reach out to them first. If they've been gone even for a year, we'll still reach out to them. We've had employees come back to us after 3 years and maybe even longer. So if you're not keeping a list of past employees or people who have worked for you and that was a good experience, it doesn't even have to be a great experience. You can retrain them, bring them back in as long as their attitude is good. Then you can plug them right back in a lot more quickly for a lot less cost. Now here's number 4. The ISSA actually recently released a study showing that there was over a 300% return inside of a cleaning business just on training alone. That means for every dollar or bit of time invested into training that it returned 300%. So what I'm going to give you is a simple training process that you can do that is extremely effective. Now, I also can hear you saying, Matt, I just don't have a ton of time to invest in a training to get this awesome return, right? Because I'm out there cleaning and I'm just trying to keep my business alive. I'm trying to keep it growing and people are calling out and all these things. That's why I mentioned all these other things first so that you can start implementing those, smoothing out your existing staff. But the real root of it all comes down to when someone enters your company, what's the experience like? What's the training like? It's going to set the tone. It's going to set how they're going to behave moving forward, which is going to drive the results in your business. And if you can make the time now, as painful as it is, to properly train or retrain all of your employees or any of them that you need to, it's gonna return and you're gonna buy all of that painful time you invested right back in loads. And to put it really simply, I don't know if you've ever heard the saying, I'm from the mountains out here, so we hear this a lot, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So I would say an ounce of training is worth an entire pound of results or time back. So what is this simple process that you can do right now inside of your company and that you can make sure that any employees in your company are doing with new employees as well? It simply goes like this. I show you how to do it, right? So I'm going to do the mop. I'm going to do this bathroom, whichever area it is. Then you're going to show me how to do it. Because the element here is when you teach, you learn more. So you want to get them to teach you and train you after seeing you do it. Yeah, it's going to be stressful. They're going to be like, I don't feel qualified to teach. That is totally fine. Teach me like I'm brand new. And they're going to retain far more information by doing that. So I teach you, you teach me, and then I'm going to check you. So now you're going to go out and you're going to clean the area and I'm going to go behind and check you and provide immediate feedback on whatever the task is that we did. And then you're going to check me. Same deal, reverse it, just like the teaching scenario. I'm going to go through, maybe I leave some common mistakes behind, right? And have them check for everything, but see if they catch those common mistakes and then check their check, right? You don't just want to leave a mistake and then just go on from there. You want to check how their check went. What did they catch from you? And that's what you can have your staff do as well. It just goes like this. I teach you, you teach me, I check you, you check me. Now, if you want to take your training to a whole new level and make your employees even more effective whenever they get out there and actually be able to train them faster, I do have that inside of the Gentle Millionaire Blueprint. It's stuff that we've done over and over again throughout the years and developed over time. Now, number 5, you're going to hear this and think, oh, I know what that is, but actually what we're targeting is the behaviors it causes. So this is simply, we need some sort of accountability in place. And accountability is your team, the cleaners, knowing that after they've received all that clarity about what to do and how to do it from training, that they're actually being monitored and upheld to those standards. And there's something that a lot of owners miss with this that is the make or break as to whether they have a ton of turnover or they don't, or spotty quality or it's great. But first, simple forms of accountability are like inspections. Like, the team knows that their building or their work is being checked every once in a while by somebody, ideally someone in management, and then the owner every once in a while have some sort of, they might review it on a computer or they might actually step in depending on the scale of the client. They just know that they don't get off scotch-free if they skip corners. And there's other forms of inspections and accountability like that, but something specifically that we really like to do inside of our operation is have the staff submit photos of specific areas. Not always whenever there's problems, right? Like, of course, we can have them submit photos if there's a complaint. Hey, show me that problem's fixed. Send a photo. Awesome. But what you can do is have your staff take photos of specific things, like, for example, every bathroom that's cleaned. Yeah, they're not going to be able to go take a picture in detail of every spot in the bathroom, and it's hard to see all that in a photo from a phone. But what it does is, if you're using an app like Clean Smarts like we do, you can see who sent it, at what time, in what building, and it's their name to it, right? So you can tell how fast they're moving through the clean. Them signing off on it essentially with a photo from their phone with their name means I am saying that this was clean to the standards of the company. Right? So if they know they got to submit a photo and that they're signing off on it, then they're going to have an internal accountability that is followed up by behaviors. So we found that works really well, and just tag that along with inspections and the other accountability pieces and verification sheets and things like that. Now, the thing that most commercial cleaning business owners get wrong when it does come to accountability is, and it kind of crosses into the quality side as well, is they try to have, say, an A player, right? Like, it's an awesome employee, and they stick them with a C or D player or a mix of them, right? And they're like, maybe the A player will make up for those people and they'll catch all the mistakes and they'll make everything smoother, right? So they spread out their A players among their staff, and then what ends up happening is that A players hate it. Because let's be honest, we can't just pay them like an owner, right? They can't get paid all this money to be there babysitting other employees, making up for their slack, and then trying to keep that A player motivated in an environment that's toxic. Because the trap is, they're going to come back to you and say, I need a lot more money to babysit these people and do my job. And if anyone in there gets a raise or they got to do any extra tasks, it's just going to become a nickel and diming thing, and it's just going to drive profitability down in your business. So what we do in our company is we actually isolate A players and B players, right? B players can level up to A players pretty easily. We isolate them in their own pockets, right? So this building is full of A players. This one over here might be a bunch of C's and D's, and management is going to work on that and monitor that, maybe even if they have to inspect daily to make sure that it's well, because management's different than an A player cleaner, right? That's their job description is to clean, it's not to manage. So have management or ownership deal with the C or D players, get some A players in there and some B players in there, and then isolate them as well. So that's the game, is put your strong pockets together, put them on your most profitable buildings, and just forget about those, right? Get them off the table, because if you have all these problems spread out throughout your company, then you're spread out all over the place. If you can isolate your issues, ideally into less profitable realms, but still drive results with those and still work with them, it's just going to take a bit more monitoring, and you can just forget about the rest because your A players are handling it. It's going to produce a lot more energy and time for you as an owner to focus on that area. And your A players aren't going to turn over as fast, because the other issue is this. You hire A players, they come into a C or D environment and they quit, right? And then you're just stuck constantly hiring C and D players and turning over, and you can't seem to get ahead. Well, if you have your A players train with other A players, they love the environment, they love what's going on, maybe you have them stick around with them for a little while, and then you move them over all at once to whichever facility is, or maybe it's just one A player you got to send over there, and you let go of all the C or D players who are just not improving, then you solve the problem, right? And it ends that cycle. It's painful either way, right? So that's why we encourage you, get rid of the C and D players in your company, either by upgrading them. Oftentimes C or Ds just honestly won't upgrade. Usually a B player will upgrade. And by the way, I'm throwing around A, B, C, D players and all this. We give all those definitions and how I think about them down below. So what you want to do though is isolate your greatness. Let them be great where it makes you the most money. Put your problems where it's not really making you the most money, but you don't want to lose it, right? So you're just going to manage it and put your problems in one place where you can focus. And by doing that, you'll make it great. And then you'll get rid of all these problems that happen. Now, of course, the game is people move, people change, A players leave sometimes still, right? So you got to keep dancing with your staff, but it's going to be a lot easier to do it whenever you isolate them. Now, the caveat with that is you will have some A players that are willing to take care of some C or Ds for a certain amount of time. Like they're not going to come to you immediately, but eventually it's going to really rub them wrong whenever they see those C and D players still there, and they're having to constantly pick up that slack. It's going to cause burnout, and then you'll lose those A players. Now, finally, I call this one flesh and bone. And here's what I mean, right? So your body is made up of flesh and bones, muscle and bone. And if I was all bone, right, I wouldn't be able to do anything. I would be super rigid, super stiff, and very little muscle makes you weak, right? But if you were all muscle and no bone, then you'd just be floppy, right? Like you wouldn't be able to stand on your own 2 feet or to scale per se. So what do I mean by flesh and bone? Well, what this is it's a ratio between how many part-time hours you have, like filled by part-timers. So you have 100 hours, for example, of capacity from part-timers versus how much you have from what we call rigid employees, or like the backbone of your company, right? So these are some full-timers who they gotta have full-time. They can't have less than full-time. They want overtime. They want promotions. They want all of these things that you want to be able to offer them, but you can't have a ton of them, or else if one leaves or if you can't give them what they want, then it's a massive hole, and your whole company starts to feel like it's collapsing back on you. So what you need is you need some part-timers that offer that flexibility, right? The ability to bend a little bit, and you need your rigid employees and your full-timers so that they can hold up the company. So your part-timers can fill gaps on the full-time, your full-timers that are rigid can fill gaps on the part-time, and you're able to flex a little bit more as you grow. There again, like it depends on what stage your company is at as to how many capacity hours you need from which category. Because we've been through multiple phases of this in our company. We've seen where at the very beginning, we were a lot more part-time heavy, and towards the more mature stages, you got a lot of full-timers, but if you're fully exclusively full-timers, it can be very difficult to still fill gaps. So you got to find which balance you need within your company. So don't be totally exclusive to one or the other if at all possible. Look, if you do these 6 things within inside your company, you will not have to clean again, or it will be extremely rare if you ever do, and it'll be by your own choice to do it. And by the way, earlier I talked about training your employees, and actually I made a video right here on how to take out the trash and how significant of a deal that is, and all the things that can go wrong and the things that you should do to come across more and more professional with that process, whether you're in the walkthrough phase or actually in the service phase for your clients. So be sure to go watch that so that you can continue building your commercial cleaning business. Again, my name's Matt, your 7-figure commercial cleaning CEO, here to help you build an incredible commercial cleaning company. And until next time, keep building.